Good afternoon and good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants Hangout. My name is Joe Grabowski, and I will be your host for today. For those just tuning in for the first time, for the next 3 weeks, we are going to be looking at the issue of ocean plastics. We'll be looking at why it's an issue, what's happening around the world, and then what people are doing to try to combat this issue and limit the amount of plastic that is getting into our oceans. So today I'm really excited to be joined by Angela Sun. Angela is an award-winning television host and journalist. Her passion for storytelling and love for the oceans led to the creation of her first feature documentary, Plastic Paradise: The Great Pacific Garbage Patch. She directed and produced the film, which has received critical praise and multiple awards around the world. She's traveled to over 70 countries and counting, and has conducted field research on the Great Barrier Reef and in Thailand. So Angela, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing some of your experience with plastics.
Thank you so much, Joe, for having, and thank you everyone for tuning in and joining us on this live stream. This is, I think, the second one that I've done with Explore by the Seat of Your Pants. So it's really exciting to team up and be able to chat with you guys. Sometimes it's really hard to talk to everybody and be in different classrooms. So this is a great way for all of us to connect from all different parts of the country and of Canada, right? I believe there's some Canadians in here.
There is. We've got some Canadian classrooms and some classrooms in the US joining us today.
Super exciting. So I guess, should I just start? Just start right in?
Absolutely. Let's go.
All right. So I'm going to share with you guys. This is my first time using this screen share. My entire screen. All right. You guys see it? I can't, are you guys all muted? I can't hear them.
We're all muted right now, but I can tell you that it's up and ready to go.
Okay. Oops, excuse me. So I'm just gonna run through this. You guys can hear me, right? Joe?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, good. Okay,
so Plastic Paradise: Great Pacific Garbage Patch is my documentary that I started researching in 2006, and I'll go into it. This is one of those famous like sort of graphics. It says, just because you can't see it doesn't mean it isn't there. And I just thought it was a really telling graphic. It's from this Brazilian artist, Freddie Santo, I believe is his name. And, it looks like it's like a carpet, but a lot of times we don't know. The Pacific Ocean is the largest feature on our planet. Our Earth is covered by over 70% of it's made out of water. So there's a lot that we don't know about what's going on. And that's where curiosity started playing in. So I kept thinking, I was researching, I heard about this trash island sort of thing. And I was like thinking and trying to do some research. There wasn't very much research on it, but I kept asking the question, every single piece of plastic that has ever been created is still somewhere on this planet. If it never goes away, where does it go? So I had to keep exploring. So I heard of the myth of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. This is actually the Citarum River in Indonesia. So this is not what the garbage patch looks like. This is what people think it looks like. It's just an island of trash. As you can see, there's a lot of straw campaigns going on. He's got a lot of straws in his boat. This is one of the most polluted areas. Indonesia is a developing country, and it is just completely choked by disposable single-use plastics. But this is a river, and this is where it's collected, but there's this myth of this trash island, right? So I'm still searching. This is an animation of what it actually is.
Pacific move in a giant circle known as a gyre, kind of like a slow-motion whirlpool or toilet flushing. So over time, all the debris that washes into the sea from the coasts of economic giants North America and Asia, or from ships, collect in a centralized zone. Estimates on the size of the garbage patch vary from somewhere around twice the size of Texas to the size of the entire continental United States. The reason why there aren't any pictures of it is because it's basically invisible. You have to sail through it with a net to know it's there. Most of the debris is floating beneath the surface.
We found that there was 6 times as much plastic as plankton.
So this is, that's pretty alarming when you think about it. And if you think about this bathtub, most bathtubs have a drain and the water goes down it, right? But this bathtub, it's the ocean. It just kind of sits in these doldrums where there are no currents. And so what I learned too, that it's not just the Pacific Ocean, but it's in all 5 major oceans. So that's why there's actually an organization called Five Gyres, because there's different sort of gyres is what we call it, but these vortexes of where the plastic trash collects.
Pacific,
So moving on, a lot of what they found in these high concentration areas in the Pacific Ocean are ghost fishing nets. Fishing nets are a huge part of the problem, because a lot of fishing net is made of nylon and polyester and synthetic materials, which are basically plastic that don't break down. They're kind of like tumbleweeds in the sea. And I believe it's over 40% of the ocean plastics are made of ghost fishing nets. These are just derelict, just thrown away fishing nets from fishermen they're kind of gross and like big hairballs of the sea. That's the best way to put it. So this is what the Great Pacific Garbage Patch actually looks like up close. If you flew over it, you flew over this area in the Pacific, this is what it would look like. Tiny little pieces of microplastics that have been broken down and photodegraded. It's not very shocking when you see it. But it's more of I think it's because we are so small. It's very hard to fathom for us just how, when you're out there in the middle of the Pacific Ocean with nothing else, this is like just the vastness of just how mammoth it is and how small we are. Until you zoom it out and look like at a Google Maps, you can't really tell. So this is an estimate. This was like a sample from the patch. They estimated that at this point,
there was 6 times as much plastic as plankton. We published this result. And
6 times as much plastic was plankton. That was Captain Charlie Moore in the background. That's his voice. He was one of the first to sail through the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. And he found that this was one of the studies earlier on. I believe now they're saying it's 20 to 1 times as much plastic to plankton. And I think a lot of you guys may or may not have heard, but by 2050, there will be more plastic in the ocean than fish if we go at the rate that we're going at. So that leads to who am I and why am I talking about this? So I'm kind of an accidental activist. I kind of fell into this because I was just really passionately curious about this topic. I'm a sports broadcaster, a TV host, an adventure traveler, and a surfer and scuba diver. And so some of the things that I've hosted, I've worked for the Tennis Channel and Fox Sports and the World Surf League. And in the corner right was Shaun White when he had long hair. American Ninja Warrior, which is one that you guys might have heard of as well. We've won a bunch of Emmys for certain things I've done. And so I wanted to show you, just to give you a little bit more background, this is like 30 seconds if I can figure it out. Not clearly. Just who I am, I guess. Whoops.
I think I found my seat for the game. Sweet, count that out. Hey everyone, I'm Angela Sun. Welcome to the Yahoo Sports Minute. American Ninja Warrior, Core Reports, Tennis Channel's virtual home base, Outside the Game, AT&T Uverse Sports, ESPN Hollywood, you're inside Ally Sports. Samantha Stoser.
So that's enough about that. Oh shoot, let me get back to my PowerPoint. So that's a little bit about me. You guys may have heard of some of the things that I've done. So how did I get involved in this and why did I start caring? I think just somebody, I wanted to know. There was no information out there, and there wasn't much written up about this patch and this garbage. And as a surfer and scuba diver and someone who loves the ocean and grew up around it, I needed to know. And so it led me down this crazy rabbit hole path to here. Oops, not playing full screen.
Located at the northern tip of Papahanaumokuakea Marine Monument, it's home to a vast array of wildlife.
All the way at the tippy top of the Hawaiian archipelago and the Hawaiian island chain at Papahanaumokuakea, which, as you can see on the map, it's pretty far away. It took us 4 hours to get there. And this is what it looks like from above the aerial view. It's tiny. It's teeny tiny. And there's, I wish I could, I don't know if oh dear, I think it's frozen. So we flew in here. This was a very important part of World War II, and it was part of turning the tide of war when the Allied forces gained control of the Pacific Ocean. So this is a very important sort of military strategic area, because this is the only landing strip that you can land on between Asia and the west coast of the U.S. So this is what we found on Midway Atoll. Here are some researchers from the University of Santa Cruz that were there when I was there, and that's us pulling out a 4-ton fishing net. Lots of fishing nets, lots of buoys, lots of plastic, all from different parts of the world. This is just an accumulation of things that we saw on the beaches that were piled up into a corner, and they remove it every 4 months. Another thing that we found, which I'm sure many of you guys may have seen or may not have seen, is that there are a lot of birds. It's one of the 70% of the world's lace and albatross live here. And we found a lot of these chicks that were supposed to fly off. They were being fed plastic because their parents circumnavigate the world, and they do not circumnavigate the world, but they can't. They're just these crazy birds that have these like superpowers that they're kind of the canaries in the coal mine, and they scavenge on the sea, and they feed their young by going out there and trying to look for squid and things. But as you can see in the bottom left corner, there's a plastic lighter that you can see. You can see like a kid's toy in there. They weren't scooping up things that they thought were edible, but it was actually plastic floating on the surface, and then bringing it back. And on the top right corner, they're feeding the chick, and we were able to get that close to them. And so they were being literally choked by plastic. And this is that famous picture from Chris Jordan. And the question that we pose is this the canary in the coal mine, or are they the canary in the coal mine? This was in 2010, he shot that. I saw it in 2009. It's already been almost 10 years since then, but you can see all the stuff that's inside this bird. It's so tragic. So I will move on. And that was one of the things that we learned. To understand the full story too, we also want to know, I'm going to skip this slide actually. This is from an old movie. Well, actually, it's
I just want to say one word to you.
Let it go.
Just one word.
Yes, sir.
Are you listening?
Yes, sir, yeah.
Plastics.
Exactly. How do you mean?
There's a great future in plastics. Think about it. Will you think about it?
Yes, I will.
So this is a famous scene from one of the famous movie, The Graduate, and about the great future in plastics. Back in the 60s and 70s is when it started growing. Then to understand the full perspective of this issue, we have to understand where this came from, right? How did this happen? So skipping from what I just saw to where we came from, you have to understand the plastics industry and how the growth and what it was for.
The plastics industry grew from producing a modest 20 million pounds in 1927 to a total of 650 million pounds by 1943, an increase of over 2,000%, which exceeded that of any other industry. 85% of that production was devoted to war.
So plastic was really created for war. And then after the war, it was seen as this innovative new technology that was going to revolutionize and change everything. Everything was throwaway and disposable, and you don't need to, do dishes. You don't need to. It was just trying to give us convenience. There was all these new products and such that infiltrated our lives and continues to, that were frankly really unnecessary before. But hey, they can make money off of it, and hey, they have this material that was first created for, production went towards war, but that slide was till 1943. And so since then, it's actually spiked even more. And I wish I had some more slides, but apologize, I do not have that. Oops. So what's the problem? The plastic pollution problem, obviously we know there's a huge problem, and 80% of that plastic that goes into our ocean is from land-based sources, and 90% of that is floating marine. 90% of floating marine debris is actually plastics. There's, this is just an estimated amount, and I know this is pretty crazy to even look at, but and a lot of us have seen the viral video of the turtle with the straw that got pulled out of his nose, which started this whole straw campaign. It's a huge problem, and it's continually to grow. This was caught in the Pacific Ocean in 2006 from Dr. Marcus Erickson from 5 gyres. And this is what he said.
The plastic is full of persistent organic pollutants, things like PCBs, DDT, PAHs, things that are known human carcinogens and endocrine disruptors, things you don't want in your body, but they're in the fish.
So that's a little bit of the stuff that's in the plastic that's in the fish that goes up the food chain. And, you know, Dr. Marcus Erickson talked about what is a persistent organic pollutant. And so this is a little bit about what it is.
So what's a persistent organic pollutant? Basically, it's chemical waste that gets absorbed by pieces of plastic and accumulates in the tissues of animals that eat it.
PCBs.
And then it goes up the food chain and into what we are eating as well. So I'm going to skip this. Well, I'll tell you a little bit about that, but bisphenol A is another one. As it's going up the food chain, once it reaches our mouths and into our stomachs, it affects us as well. And it becomes an endocrine disruptor. What is an endocrine disruptor? Well, this is the stuff that goes up the food chain, leaches through the plastics.
Endocrine disruptors are basically chemicals that can mess up your body's internal signaling system. They make hormones go haywire and can cause all kinds of problems, from diabetes to brain disorders and dementia to cancer.
Every day,
So we are exposed to this every day because we're around plastics every single day. And there's a lot that gets leached out, and a lot that comes out of these things that we touch every day, including receipt paper, including when you microwave things and such. So the question is this, you know, we've seen all these crazy photos of birds with bellies of plastic. Is this our future? Is this a plastic-filled life? Our future. I don't like to be gloom and doom, so we're going to skip, or not skip, but move forward. Basically, the biggest problem is single-use disposable plastics. I'm not saying all plastics are bad. Some people, you know, it's really, really hard to rid your whole life of plastic. And there are great parts of plastic. I'm just talking about specifically single-use disposable. National Geographic estimates that worldwide we use 85 million bottles of water every minute. More than 500 million disposable straws are used in the US every day. And the 300 to 700 plastic bags are used every day by Americans. Those are huge numbers, and that's just the US alone. Here's a little graphic just to kind of illustrate.
If everyone in the United States tied their annual consumption of plastic bags together in a giant chain, that chain would reach around the Earth's equator 776 times.
That's a lot. That's a lot of plastic, and we are literally choking ourselves with it. So what about recycling?
If everyone
excuse me.
Unlike glass or metal, which can be used over and over again, most plastic doesn't truly get recycled. It gets downcycled. Plastic consumer products are usually converted to a lower grade material and used for things like park benches and insulation. A lot of this process takes place overseas.
So that's the thing, like we ask, what about recycling, right? And I think only less than 5% gets actually brought back. And I think we have to think before recycling, before everything, the 4 R's to remember are to refuse single-use plastics before you reduce, reuse, and recycle. Adding that 4th R to the beginning really changes the conversation and what we can do. Because I feel like after you watch a lot of, and you see all these birds with their stomachs cut open and all these crazy, so much plastic is choking us, what can we do? I mean, I get angry about it. I hope you guys got angry about it. I've been angry about it for the past, this whole time I've been working on this project. And so we created this pledge. This was from Eric Abel. He's a surf artist, and he created this little design for me to get people, to get students, to get anyone who would listen to say no to single-use plastics for just 2 weeks, or at least try to do it for 2 weeks. And we created this social media campaign that really moved the needle and started changing things. But how did it do so? Well, it started with the 5 Ps, which is passionate curiosity helps us find our purpose, and through perseverance engages people into meaningful partnerships. What do I mean by that is that I started out literally with this idea. I was like, I'm not a filmmaker. I'm a sports broadcaster. I do TV stuff. I don't know how to make a film out, you know, worth the life of me. But I had this passionate curiosity, and I was a surfer and a scuba diver, and I've always been in the ocean. So that led me to find this purpose, to go and figure out, what is this and why do we care and what should we do about it? And it was a really hard road. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It took me a really long time to make it happen, and a lot of favors from a lot of friends, and a lot of learning, a lot of failing, a lot of falling on my face. And after about, gosh, at least 6 years, finally putting it together. So that there's the perseverance point. And then engaging people into meaningful partnerships is next, right? So now you've made whatever widget it is, whatever thing you're going to make. How do you tell people about it? Well, people want to get activated, and people want to, once they learn, they want to do something. Like hopefully what you guys would learn from today, and learning what you'd like to do about this problem. So through meaningful partnerships with people and through students all around the world, we started that pledge, the social media pledge, and we asked people to post about it, because we all have a platform and you can use social media for good. It doesn't have to be just doing it for the gram and, you know, just making us feel bad about our lives or whatnot, and how everyone else has cool lives. But you can be that impact, you can be that change. And so when we asked people to do it, they really stepped up, and they really took it upon themselves to share with their friends and share locally, share with your inner circle of people how you can really do things that are different, which is refusing before you reduce, reuse, recycle. And I'll go over that after I get out of this. But there's some more people from Dominican Republic, from Atlanta, from, gosh, so many people, LA, from Chicago, from everywhere. So to leave you to get out of the slides and talk a little bit more, one of my favorite quotes is this: "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has." That's Margaret Mead's quote. And so I want to ask you guys, just because I am an accidental activist, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. What's your step going to be? What are you guys going to do to take that one little step forward, to just start your journey of what you're going to do to find, you know, what you're passionate about? What are you curious about? So here's our little handles for, there's my personal one, Plastic Paradise. And then I just started a little travel blog. If you want to follow on all the Instagram or Twitter or social media and whatnot, Facebook, actually you guys probably don't use Facebook, but I'm going to exit out of that so I can actually see you and talk to you. And I will share some more. How do I exit this though?
If you just hit the green button again, it'll bring you back.
Stop sharing. Oh, am I back?
Go. We gotcha.
Woo-hoo!
All right. Good stuff. Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us, Angela.
Yeah, I was trying to like speed through it so we have some time for questions and everything, but I did want to share with you some of the cool ways that you can just simply by today, and if you want to take our Plastic Paradise Pledge for 2 weeks to say no to single use, you can. What I do is I always bring my own. This one is Mobot Nation. It's like a foam roller and a water bottle. This one's a clean canteen, but I always carry my own water bottles, which I'm sure you guys might have already. I have this little to-go-ware. It's like a little utensil set that I carry, but you might have it in your lunch boxes and what you bring to lunch already. I wanted to share a little bit about why I said recycling was not fully. It's not that recycling is bad or anything. I think if we can recycle, for sure. If we can support companies that use recycled materials, of course. It is better to upcycle and use excess material than continuing this trend of like this constant consumerism. But some of the things that you cannot recycle that you think, oh, I can totally recycle it. So this, I don't know if you can see it, but right there, it says number 5. So there's certain types of plastics that can get recycled just because it has that little sign. This cherry bag, it's actually Canadian cherries, is not recyclable. This will end up in the trash. So because there's no facilities that take number 5. Usually we talk about number 1 and number 2, which is PET, polyethylene, which is the water bottles, or high density polyethylene, which is the milk jugs and stuff. And those can actually be recycled into toys, into the decking, into whatever it is. Here's another one. Clearly I like grapes. These are from, I don't know where these are from, California. Again, another, I don't know if you can see this, number 5. So that doesn't work either. then another one is, you know, we talk about these Tetra Pak. Maybe your parents, you guys have had stuff in this or whatever. It says, oh, look, hey, recyclable only where facilities exist. I'm going to show you that right there. I don't know if you guys can see it. But you think, oh, it's got a green thing on it, so I'll just chuck it in the recycle bin. It'll just get recycled somehow. It doesn't work that way. It actually just ends up in the landfill again, unless it goes into some, you have to go to recyclecartons.com to figure it out. That's a lot for a consumer to think about. Here's another Tetra Pak. I've got lots of trash to show you. And then here, so then people think, oh, what about the compostable stuff, right? What about the compostable bag stuff that I have? So this one says it's compostable, but only in industrial facilities. I know in California, we only have 5 of them, and they're not in the South End and in LA area or the Bay Area. They're in like random spots. How am I supposed to get this over there to actually get composted in an industrial facility? So the things where, let's say you might go to a Whole Foods or a, you know, takeout facility that has those utensils made out of corn or made out of like corn plastic or sugar plastic or whatever. It actually is cellulose can be a building block of plastics, but it doesn't necessarily mean it'll break down into the ground like biodegradable, marine biodegradable things. And so what we've done in small, tiny, this is what I mean by starting locally. I was at the Santa Monica City Council meeting, and we just voted to amend the ordinance to basically pull out any of this like supposedly greenwashing compostable stuff. It's going to be banned from Santa Monica, including straws. There's a lot of compostable straws. Paper straws do work. Paper straws are paper, but they also, when you suck them, they, you know, kind of disintegrate. And so there's a lot of greenwashing going on, and I just want to clarify if anyone has questions about that. I'm learning as I go myself, and I can also talk about the ocean cleanup and what I think about that. But I wanted to open up to questions because I've been talking way too much. So.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Angela. And I'm really glad you showed those examples at the end, because if you're just walking through the grocery store and you see something that says recyclable, you know, right in your mind, you might be thinking you're doing the right thing, but you know, some of those things only in special spots. So it does pay to learn a little bit and find out just what is recyclable in your local area.
Yeah, also just, I think the key is really like, who's going to tell, what company is going to say, don't buy this? I mean, Patagonia did do a campaign like that, but not many companies are going to say like, don't buy my drink or don't buy this. They're going to try to figure out a way to kind of pacify, which is to make us like not think about it and just go about our merry day, because it's more inconvenient to carry your own stuff. You know, like bringing your own stuff with you is kind of annoying, and you're like the bizarro person who does that. But I don't, let's not make it weird anymore. Like, it should be normal.
It's not that weird. Here's my set.
See,
it's not that weird. It's important to make those little changes.
And it's actually really up to you guys, because parents and your older siblings and whatever, like, they're already set in their ways, but you guys actually are the change makers. You guys are the ones who are going to be the future leaders, and the ones who are going to be the ones being like, that was so weird when they used to use those plastic straws, or it was so weird when they used to not bring their own water bottle and stuff. You guys are the change makers. So I'm so excited to hear your questions.
All right. Well, before we meet our camera classrooms, I want to give a quick shout out to Mrs. Shellabarger's grade 5. They're in Iowa, and they're watching us online. She says there's 100 kids watching online. So, and they're just starting to send in some questions. So we'll get some of them. If any other classrooms are watching on YouTube, let us know and send in some questions. But for now, let's meet some live classrooms. So we're going to go to Austin, Texas first. We're going to meet the group hanging out with Mrs. Hance. Let me turn her microphone on. How we doing, Austin?
Great. Hi. Wait. I was just wondering, do you have any tips for like reusing like certain items, or like what tricks do you have other than carrying your own water bottle?
Bringing your own utensils with you, taking your bags with you, making sure I kind of hide things in my car. I mean, I know you guys probably are not driving right now, but hide things in your parents' car, you know, like just make sure you always have a stash of reusable bags in there. So a lot of times I forget. A lot of times too, like when people go shopping, let's say you go to the mall, you don't think I'm going to buy something, you know, whereas at the grocery store, you know for sure you're going to buy something. Sometimes like keeping those ones that like can fit in you know, that wrap down like a Chico bag or something and put it in your purse or whatnot, or your backpack. That's been super helpful for me just to like hide things. I'm trying to think of what other, I'm kind of having a brain fart at the moment. It happens as I'm going. Yeah, I think really as a consumer, what we can do is really to share too. I wouldn't take these compost thingies, like if they're available. Like, I just think it's basically the same thing. I would treat it the same way. I wouldn't say, oh yeah, that's so much better because it's green color and it says compostable on it. I think the hardest for a lot of students or a lot of people in general is, you know what, this is a very, very easy one. When you're at the coffee shop, let's say you're studying for a test or whatever with your friends, or you're like out, it's Friday afternoon and you're hanging out, you guys go to, you know, maybe a Starbucks or something like that. And just, here's a survey for you guys. Just go look around. I guarantee you, every time I go into one of the coffee shops, I look around and people who are studying there, sitting there, planning to have the coffee just there, have it in to-go cup. Why do you have it in to-go cup? Ask for it for here. It's so simple. Just have it in a glass cup. And actually, a lot of those chains do have for here cups. They just don't advertise it, and they're so used. The baristas are so used to just making it and giving it to you with a lid and everything. But you're literally studying there, and you're going to stay there for an hour, and you're probably going to finish it. So why would you have it in a to-go cup? It's just our culture, our society is trained to be like, even when we're not on the go and we're just chilling with our friends, you have it in the to-go cup because we're so used to feeling that. We're so used to feeling that lid and feeling the way. I mean, it's all marketed towards us, right? So something as simple as, oh, having a ceramic mug or here, that's easy.
All right, that is an excellent point. Let's see, let's go to Hutchinson, Kansas this time. Mrs. Edgar and her grade 4s are hanging out with us. Let me turn their microphone on. How we doing, grade 4s?
Good. I hope I didn't freak you out with like gross photos. Go ahead.
My name is Asa, and what can I do from Kansas to help?
Wait, it's Asa?
Asa.
Asa, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you guys. Well, I think really in your everyday, you know what? Right. Sorry. Writing your city councils as well. When I was at the Santa Monica City Council, there were kids there, and yeah, you know, you guys are the future voters, but you also have a voice, and maybe you can't vote in the election just quite yet, but I saw kids out there, and I saw teens out there, and we all got to say our voice and talk about what we felt about. We were basically banning straws and stirrers and this non-recyclable, really non-compostable plastics. It's called PLA plastic, polylactic acid. It's a big word, but I think that you guys being involved, even writing your council people. One of my friends he had his 3-year-old talked, and it was just so moving, and it's more powerful actually coming from you guys. So if you really want to get activated and you don't know how, you can start just literally by learning about your city and what is available there. And maybe it's like your school gets together and decides to write the city to try to create an ordinance that will get rid of the straws or get rid of the bag or something. And you guys can do it. And I know, because I've seen it. I've literally seen it happen in Santa Monica with like a 3-year-old going up there and talking, and teenagers going up and talking. Another thing you can do just by yourselves and just every day, literally when you go home from school today, is really tell your parents and kind of get on them, because parents are the slowest learners. My gosh. Because they're so set in their ways sometimes that it really takes you guys to move the needle, to tell them what's, you know, like it's cooler to carry your own straw, or mom, don't take that, or like we don't need that at the store, like whatever, you know. So you have a voice, and you can literally do it after school.
All right, another excellent point. It's I always find myself reading articles about kids who started their campaigns, who talk to their city councils, and you're right, they can have a very powerful voice and make that difference. So we're going to jump to Mr. Turner's class, grade 4-5s, joining us in Thunder Bay, Ontario, here in Canada. How are we doing, 4-5s? All right.
Hi, Angela. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you guys? Oh,
Great.
Little fortress over there.
Yeah. First of all, I'd like to thank you for hanging out with us today. And this is my second time being privileged to hang out with you, as I was part of the last hangout that you did with Joe. And I've shown my classes Plastic Paradise for a few years now. And what we were wondering as a class is, are you encouraged by companies like Starbucks, for instance, announcing that they're going to go to paper straws? And do you think that this will impact other companies, other large single-use plastic companies, to switch as well?
Yeah, I think right now is a tipping point. And a few years ago, we were still like, no one was really jumping on board yet. Lonely Whale did, which is they're a nonprofit. They started this whole Strawless Ocean campaign. They got Russell Wilson, why am I blanking? They got Adrian Grenier, who is an actor, was a part of it, and got all these like sports people and celebrity people to join in. And I see this like trend where it's just a tipping point now where people are hearing more and more about it. So I am encouraged. And, will taking straws out of the ocean actually move the needle? Because the naysayers are saying, oh, straws are only 0.003% of ocean plastics trash. I think it's a gateway plastic. It's more about awareness, to start the awareness. Starbucks has done it. They're moving to the sippy cup thing, which I still think you should just have it for there. Just take the 5 minutes out to have your coffee or your frappuccino or non-caffeinated tea for you guys. Or I think that who is it? American Airlines has pushed to take out the stirs. I believe Alaskan Airlines. I think American probably followed suit. I believe there's a bunch of other corporations that have started following suit on little things like that because it doesn't hurt their bottom line. It really still helps them. It helps generate press for them. It makes them look good, but it also doesn't mess up how much money they're making and whatnot. I think the harder question to answer is, does it really move the needle? Is it just a PR stunt? Is it just sort of greenwashing stuff? I think we got to start somewhere. And I think what you guys are learning in school and what you guys are going to have the tools to do and to change and move the needle, you can go out there now and be like, actually, you know what? I learned that this doesn't really work. Or, this stuff, like you have to go to this website to get it recycled and stuff like that. Like, Mom, you got to, either separate it and do that, or maybe just bring your own glass container to the store to refill it, or maybe buying in bulk and stuff like that. I think, I don't know, I still go back to like kids moving the needle. And really, I hope you guys want to do it, because I don't know what else will happen if you don't. But I am encouraged that corporations and bigger companies are jumping on board. I hope you guys are too.
All right, excellent. Mrs. Morgan's got a group of students in San Jose, California. They're grade 5 students. Let me turn their microphone on. Oh, actually, you're going to have to turn it on for me because you're using an iPad today. So there they are.
The 408. What's up, 408? How about them Warriors?
All right, come on up here, Caleb. Go for it. What's your question?
Does the nets get in the ocean even though the fisherman doesn't throw it away?
How did they get in the ocean? Or do the nets get in the ocean when the fishermen don't?
Get in the ocean without the fishermen throwing the nets in the ocean.
Well, I don't know if they actively like. Actually, I don't know. I don't know what happens on boats because I haven't been on enough boats. But I know, like, I don't know if they actively throw it away. Maybe it breaks off. A lot of the stuff that I found when I was at Midway Atoll was So there's these Thai workers who work there, and kind of they are like the maintenance keepers there. So there's not that many people on that tiny little island I was on. But one of the things that they collected were glass balls. And those glass balls, actually, I have it somewhere. I don't know where it is right now. But those were actually fishing buoys. Fishing buoys, those things that float to hold the fishing net, like you could see there's a net on the water. They used to be made out of glass. And now they're all made out of plastic. So that's a big part of the fishing net thing, is that there's all these buoys and giant buoys. And I think I think that local fishermen who are subsistence fishermen, which means that they farm only what they eat and are very local about it and staying local. I don't think that they're necessarily the problem, or they're throwing their nets into the ocean. I think it's really the large commercial fishermen and the fishing companies and stuff. With the demand of the popularity of sushi and of fish in general, there's been a lot of questioning about, are we just overfishing our oceans? The oceans are fished out a lot because we have these huge machines and huge, huge nets. I mean, the one we found was 4 tons. So I don't know that necessarily they're just like throwing them over, whatnot. But I do know, I could probably get more information for you. A friend of mine, they own this company called Barreo, and they make these sunglasses and skateboards, which is pretty cool, out of fishing nets. So they take the fishing nets, they recover it, and then they make skateboards and sunglasses and cool products out of it. But they saw that as a problem, and they decided to do something about it. And they didn't have background in machinery or product stuff, and then they learned. So I think if you have that passionate curiosity to learn, you can come up with an idea yourself if you see there's a problem that's happening. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe it'd be a cool class project. Like, how would you innovate, and what would you do to clean up the oceans or try to stop? Here's the thing, I think, okay, and this is one thing that people ask me all the time, and every time, I'm sure you guys saw it in the paper, but when the ocean cleanup, I know they launched just from San Francisco yesterday or 2 days ago, when they say that they can clean up the ocean and people ask, what do I think about it? Here's my take on it. I think it spreads a lot of awareness, and it brings a lot of media attention every time there's some sort of thing with the ocean cleanup. But I think if you imagine that bathtub that I showed you guys earlier with that, that graphic, imagine trying to scoop out the plastic from this bathtub, right? You're trying to but the tap's still running. Like the water in the bathtub still keeps going. So how are you ever going to get all the water out if you can't turn off the tap? So we got to start from the beginning, right? And start from the source, which is not getting it in there in the first place. So I will try to find out more information about the fishing nets for you, but I don't think they're really just chucking it off the side. It's probably just like the line breaks. I mean, there's so many fishermen out there.
And
it's really a long question. I mean, long answer. Sorry.
You mentioned Barreo. We hosted Ben from Barreo on Monday. So here's an example of one of their skateboards. They're
skate decks.
Decks made from 100% recycled fish nets. So that's pretty darn cool.
Yeah, it is really neat.
All right. Well, our class in Iowa, the grade 5s, are wondering in an online question, how does plastic from further inland make its way to the ocean?
How does plastic from inland make it to the ocean?
Yeah.
I think a lot of plastic ends up in landfill. I think that transport, with a lot of transport, the U.S.'s largest, their biggest export is trash, and it was to China. And China earlier this year, I believe, I think it was this year or even last year now, they were like this emoji to all of the trash, like world trash, negative. We are not taking your world trash anymore. I like that emoji, the one with the girl with the purple thing. But they said no, and they after China said we're not taking the world's trash anymore, that's when governments were like, oh snap, we got to do something about this. And so that's when Europe decided, oh, we're going to phase out the bag, and in England and in all these smaller other countries as well. And it's really started this question of our landfill, and it's just piling up. So I think what we would do is move our trash on those giant cargo ships. And there's also storms and, you know, things spill and whatever. I know that there was the story, I think it's a book now, about the rubber duckies that spilled over in a cargo ship. And where did all the rubber duckies end up? Because they, you know, went on the ocean's currents and they found a bunch of them in all different places. It became a book. I can't think of it now, but there was an installation in Hong Kong about it. So I think trade, a lot of it. I mean, if you're moving trash around, like it's going to end up in the ocean. A lot of trash, a lot of plastics from microfibers, actually, from your clothes, from the dirty laundry water. So this is a conundrum because I don't really know how to solve it either. And maybe this is something that you guys can help and think and innovate on. Washing machine water, when you wash stuff like polyester fleeces, polyester is a form of plastic. Those little tiny fibers get into our water streams, get into our lakes and our oceans. The microbeads are now phased out because it became a federal law after was a big campaign, and I was part of it, including with 5 gyres to push it. And President Obama at the time signed it off to get microbeads phased out of beauty products. You know, so when you wash your face, it's got those little beads in it. Those are straight plastic, and they go down the drain as well. So that's a way it gets down through the ocean too, from inland. And there's a couple other ways, but I'm blanking. I don't know why I know all this stuff. I guess I do know all this stuff just because I've been talking about it for so many years. But again, you guys, I come at it as an accidental activist. I am not a scientist. I didn't even take OChem. I didn't take calculus. Like I mean, I'm just curious. And I think one of the things my dad always taught me is like, I'm not that smart. I just work really hard. Like, I just think if you are super into something, you'll just find out more information. And you guys have the cool added factor, which we didn't when we were growing up, was just going on the internet and Googling it and finding out information and figuring out what's fact, what's fiction, what's real, what's not. But there's so many more ways that you can find out. So I would like to know more too about how it ends up from inland out. Well, I can't hear you anymore.
There we go. How about now?
Mm-hmm.
All right, perfect. Well, Angela, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. I know you've got a busy schedule, but you know, it's great to have you joining us again. You joined Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants in the first year that we got started, so it's really great to see that you're still an activist. You're still pursuing a solution for plastics in our oceans. And, you know, it is great to see that really we are, I think, at a tipping point right now. There's so much attention and so much media that even small changes like straws, I think, are going to start to add up and really tip the scale and get more people paying attention to this issue.
Yeah, and even right now with the straw situation, there's only, I believe, there's 4, well, at least with the polylactic acid, so these sort of non-marine degradable things, there's 4 places in the US, specifically Manhattan Beach, Malibu, and San Francisco, and Santa Monica, which is all California. And they think California, we're all nuts and avocados. But I think that California really starts these trends as well. But I do feel like, why not you guys start the trend wherever you are? You know, like you guys start the trend, and you know, you can, because now you have all the information. You've been equipped with all the resources, and your teachers have great resources. And I'm happy to answer more questions on any of, just reach out to me on all the social medias or whatnot. DM me anything question-wise, or tweet. Or you guys probably don't use Twitter.
Well, what I can do is I can share the handles with the teachers as well, so they could do it right from the classroom.
Perfect. Or yeah, if the teachers want to share. If you guys do take the pledge to say no to single-use plastics, I'd love to add those photos from your classroom onto our site, just because it's rad to see everybody all together from all around the world coming together for this same thing. And thank you so much, Joe, for having me. And I love that Nat Geo's all about it too, and really using platforms for good.
All right, excellent. Well, classrooms, thank you so much for hanging out. Enjoy the rest of your days. I'll turn the microphones on really quickly. Mrs. Morgan, if you want to turn yours on for me, and we'll just say goodbye and thank you, and we'll sign off for today. So thanks so much, boys and girls, for hanging out. All right. Thanks, everybody. Angela, thank you so much. We are signing off for today.